What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. So, last night, one of my subscribers, shout out to Bilo, what's cracking, big dog? He sent me a clip of the Vlad TV interview with Lefty Gunplay, right? And it was interesting to me. I normally just react to the videos. I really don't like to react to Vlad. I don't think I ever have because I don't know how he gets down, and I'm not trying to have him report me. He's a big channel. But I do want to say that since this is a Lefty Gunplay video, and he never wears a shirt, he's the never mind. I was going to say he's like Wes Watson. But since he never wears a shirt, I decided I'm not going to wear a shirt. Fuck it, right? But in all seriousness, there's a thing with Lefty. He's so disliked for so many reasons, and it just trips me out. And it's a lot of people are stuck on, did he really do the time that he says? You know, you can't be off by a year or a month. You can't be off by anything because the trolls are going to eat all that up, right? But I was asked, do you really think that he was in all the places that he says? And I listened to the video and it tripped me out. So let's go through it. So Lefty says that when he was in Wasco, that he jumped on somebody. I was in Wasco. That's the reception center for the 805. We all go to Wasco. So I was like, okay, that's, you know, nothing new, nothing different. LA goes there, Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, we all go there. So he was in Wasco, and then he said him and some homies beat somebody up, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. It's a reception center. That's possible in the reception center. So I have no doubt that him and some fellas jumped on somebody and beat the brakes off of him and went to the hole right there in Wasco. He said while he was in the hole, he caught a sticking, and that for that, they sent him from Wasco Ad Sag to Corcoran Shoe. Plausible. 1,000,000% plausible. There's nothing to that would make anyone who's been to the joint think, man, that's hell nah. But here's what tripped me out. He went to Wasco. He went to Wasco. I was in Wasco. Then he went to Corcoran Shoe. 482 right. I was in 482 right. And he said while he was in Corcoran, he got into some more stuff. What? I don't know. That's not my business. That's his business. But from Corcoran Shoe, 482 right, where I had been, he went to Pelican Bay Shoe. Completely plausible. I went from 482 right in Corcoran Shoe back up to to Pelican Bay, where I had usually done my shoot terms. He said he went to D side, D facility, right? And then when they started moving people around, he got moved from D facility to C11. When I left Corcoran Shoe, I landed in C2 in Pelican Bay. That was the first time. This is 1998. That was the first time they were actually talking about making the short corridor in Pelican Bay. They moved a bunch of us around, and I got moved, and a bunch of us got moved that weren't validated. We got moved from C2 to C11. So I'm like, what a trip, eh? We're both in 4A. We got moved to the Bay, and we land in C11. So everything about what he's talked about to me, in my experience, there's nothing that's going to jump out to me as there's no way that happened. That's commonplace. He did say that Corcoran was wild and was crazy. And my experience, Corcoran Shoe was the pettiest prison I had ever been in. At the time, 98, we were still getting group yard. However, it was segregated group yard. Southerners went out with whites and bulldogs, and the Northerners went out with the blacks and the others. But there was still group yard. There were still dudes getting hit on the yard. They didn't have the dog runs. You didn't have the cages. You were going out there. And if you had an issue coming, you were going to get it. That said, that's just prison. But as far as the way the COs interacted, the program that was in place, like you couldn't buzz down in the yard as a group, in the group yard, because it would write you down, write you up, and that's a point for validation. I remember at one point there was in-cell rutina. The days you didn't have yard, so the whole tira, the whole bottom tier was Southerners and whites and Bulldogs. The upper tier at the time was the Bulldogs. The blacks, the Northerners, and the others. And I remember the whole bottom tier was doing rutina. And during the rutina, the workout, the exercise, the cops in the tower actually set up a video camera and panned across the whole entire bottom tier, moved to the other section and did the whole bottom tier, and then the other section and did the whole bottom tier, and we all received 115s for group exercise and calling out cadence. Those are points of validation. Somebody asked me today, were there people in Pelican Bay who were slammed down, validated, and incarcerated until they were supposed to die in that cell without doing any acts of violence? Yes. And those type of write-ups right there, those petty bullshit write-ups right there would give you they count as a point of validation. A birthday card where all the fellas, somebody draws you a nice card and all the fellas on the tier sign it, hey, happy birthday, homie. That was a point of validation. So normally what dudes would do is they would draw a card and they would put pages in there, and everybody would sign the pages. That way you could pull the pages out, get rid of those. They couldn't use that as a point, and you still had a nice card, and that was from the fellas, right? Now, something that Lefty said that did catch my attention, and I'm always trying to give advice, man. He's not going to take my advice. I'm sure he hears it because he said he watches everything whenever he's mentioned. And I'm going to say this, Holmes. I'm going to say this. Lefty, you were in Pelican Bay. You were in other joints. You were around some serious people, eh? I have a question for you, Holmes. Did you ever see a Northerner, or did you ever have personally, let alone see, did you ever see or have this happen to you where a white dude came and asked you for your paperwork? Or a Northerner asked you for your paperwork? Or a Crip? Or a Blood? A Kumi? It's not going to happen. Your paperwork is for your crew. I heard you say that you were showing vatos your paperwork and that you posted your paperwork. I don't get this whole posting paperwork on social media. You're inviting people who you are supposed to have been schooled are not on your level. And I'm not disrespecting anyone else, because every faction believes the other factions are not on their level. So what do they look like showing you their paperwork? You're not a part of their thing. They're not a part of yours. Just some advice, Holmes. When you post certain things, you open it up for other people who have no business in your business to discuss your business. So me personally, having done over 24 years straight in the California Department of Corrections, the majority of it being in Pelican Bay and New Folsom, I heard Lefty Gunplay's story on Vlad TV, and I don't hear anything that sounds odd to me. It all sounds legit. It all sounds exactly the way things are. Again, I went through the exact same thing. I went from Wasco to New Folsom to Pelican Bay, Pelican Bay to Tehachapi to Corcoran Shoe, back to the Bay. You know what I mean? And I could go on and on. But yes, somebody could go from Corcoran to Pelican Bay. It happened all the time. It happened to me. It happened to a bunch of us that went from Tehachapi. So back then in 98, they were about to open up Tehachapi Shoe, and they had a thing where they said if you had been to Pelican Bay Shoe, they did not want you in Corcoran or Tehachapi because of the influence you may or may not have on everyone there. They wanted it to be more for those shoes to be more for like the level 1 and 2 guys, some level 3s. They didn't want it to be like dudes who had connections to any gang activities. They wanted it to be those two to be less serious. They can't stop that. They can't control that. CDC is full of too many knuckleheads. And like Lefty said, he was trying to make a name for himself. He was trying to garner the spotlight. He did whatever he did. And I guess that's all I can say on that. That's my video. Obviously, Lefty Gunplay and I are built different because I am cold without a shirt on, and he never has one on. So let me go ahead and bring this one to a close. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.